So everybody, welcome to our Team B Wednesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time call. We've been doing this for the last couple months consistently and getting rock stars on the call so that we can pick their brain about how they got started in the business and how they got to the top and what their life looks like. And we are so excited tonight to have Doug Barlow on the call tonight. He is Dr. Mitra Way's amazing husband who does it all on the side. And you know, it takes two to do a very successful business, and they have proven how to do this business successfully together, tag teaming, raising two beautiful daughters, and living a life that only people would dream of. And we are so excited to have some male energy on the call tonight. We've had a lot of female energy the last couple months, and I think you're our first male to share. So we're excited that you know, we are bringing on males, and they think that this business is only female based. So it's nice that we can bring in men like yourself, Doug, to prove them wrong and to show them that this business is made for everyone, as long as you have a belief in yourself, the product, the industry, and our company. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Doug, so you can share a bit about your story, your journey, and what your life looks like today. So thank you so much.
Sure. Well, I guess, you know, it's taken me a while to log in because I don't respond as fast as women. Anyway, yeah. Well, welcome everyone, and thanks for inviting me on to the Team B weekly call. Happy summer to all. And I guess I'll just start off with my journey, which began with Juice Plus. It'll almost be, let's see, it was in September of 1994. And so in another month, I'll be starting my 23rd year of sharing this opportunity about health, free time, and cash flow. But the way I found myself here was that I was working on ships as an engineer. I grew up on the Canadian shore, Lake Erie, and when my dad asked me what I wanted to do for college, I said, oh, I'm not really interested in school right now, Dad, but I would like to know where those ships go. And so fast forward, I wound up making a living as an operating engineer on big ships that traveled the world. And the thing that I loved about that for a while was that I got paid really well, and I only had to work 6 months of the year. So that job allowed me to kind of, you know, get familiar with what it looked like to have lots of free time and have a cash flow. But I will say that my health kind of suffered a little bit as a result of that. And after the Exxon Valdez ran aground, I was actually in the market for changing careers. I figured I don't care how much they're going to pay me, I just can't work on this ship anymore. And so I was in a position where I was looking at taking a huge step backwards in terms of my lifestyle. I was going to get a regular engineering job, you know, a 9-to-5er, take a huge cut in pay. And more importantly for me, I was going to have a regular job where I was just going to end up with, I don't know, what do you get, like 2-3 weeks of holiday a year? And that was the hardest part. So I was I am to this day forever grateful for my friend who, while I was in that search for looking for something else to do, my friend invited me over for dinner. And she shared fruit and vegetable nutrition in a capsule with me. And I went home that night thinking, wow, it's 1994. I've just been handed fruit and vegetable nutrition in a capsule, and I'm 6 years ahead of the 21st century. So I must be in a good place, because I immediately thought, well, I went home and dreamt about George Jetson for the next 3 nights. And if you don't know George Jetson, he's the little astronaut who would come home and his wife would serve him his dinner in a capsule. And after dreaming about George Jetson for 3 nights, I called Mitra up and I just said, hey, you know, doesn't everybody need something like Juice Plus, and can you make money doing it? And so I came into the business primarily from the opportunity side. I wasn't really looking for Juice Plus to make a huge difference in my health. I was 33 years of age at the time. Semi-professional athlete. You know, I made a living being active and healthy, or that was my fitness program. And so she said, well, I'm not sure about the business side of things, but why don't you come to an event where you can learn more about the product, you can learn more about the company, and you can learn how you can take advantage of this opportunity. And I'll be ever, so I can't say enough about going to a meeting, especially for new people. It's not always easy to get someone to a presentation, especially in today's world. People are so busy. But if you ask enough questions about why someone is not 100% satisfied with their health or how they feel or their cash flow, their ability to generate income or the amount of free time they have to do the things that they want to do, then encourage them. Look, you don't have to sign up. You don't have to say yes. Just come see if this is for you. It's free information. And at that event that night, I don't know, maybe there was 25 people in the room, and I certainly got the most out of it. A couple things occurred for me, and this is just part of my story. I was 33 years of age at the time, and I'd had just enough experience in the real world, if you will, in terms of working for someone else and trading your precious hours for a minimum amount of dollars. And engineering was good. I have no complaints about engineering. However, I did start to realize after a while that while it was good, it wasn't great. And I realized, you know what, for the things that I want to do in my life, I need to have things great. So at that presentation, I heard a couple of things. One is that if you wanted to, you could become a student of this business model and compress a lifetime's worth of work into a couple of years worth of effort. And that was what really struck me. I don't know about you, but how often can you honestly say that work gets in the way of having a good time? And so at 33 years of age, that was me. I was like, really? I could get all the work done in a couple of years and then have all the time and money to do whatever I wanted to do? Sign me up for that program. Another thing that I heard was that you could earn what you're worth. And as an engineer, the one thing I had going for me was work ethic. I was always willing to put in extra time and energy to get the job, done as well as I could. But I never really got the acknowledgement that I was looking for. So when I heard, oh, you could earn what you were worth, I was like, well, I think I'm worth a lot more than what people are, paying me and even more inclined to acknowledge me for. And then the final thing that I heard is you can do it on your own schedule. You can do it on your terms. So I just kind of thought, well, sign me up for that program and prove me wrong. So that was, almost 20, so, as I said, it'll be my 23rd year. And I learned so much along the way. I didn't know that I had what it took to actually, I set some goals in the beginning like they tell you to do, and I set my memory jogger. But in my first month, when my check was, $23.96, and then it was, $87.22, I wasn't really sure how I was going to smack it out of the park, when in the first couple of months, I really hadn't generated more than a couple $100. But that's the one thing that I learned about this business is that, are you willing to put in a 10-hour day and only get paid for 8 hours, knowing that down the road, you can put in very little time and be paid as if you're the CEO. So I became a student. I basically did what people told me to do. That's how I gotten where I was in my life at that point. If the coach said jump, I said, how high and how far and how many times should I jump? And so together, Mitra and I, we kind of, with my enthusiasm and excitement and her interest in kind of figuring out how to help me answer my questions, we realized that we were going to create a model that the company didn't even know existed, because previously they'd been involved in environmental products, and it was kind of a one-time sale. You sold it once, and then there wasn't much residual. So with a consumable product, you have to get that there's nothing better than a consumable, because every time somebody runs out of Juice Plus to get another box, whereas previously it was years before they would reorder. So we kind of we watched at what other companies were doing. We saw people who had second-rate products that were doing very well financially, and so we just took it upon ourselves to figure out how to crack this nut, so to speak. And that's kind of how the preferred customer program that you see today, we helped the company create that. And then when you look at the virtual franchise, we helped the company create that, mostly because other people in the industry were willing to tell us what they were doing and why they were being successful, even though they had second-rate products, but they, it's kind of like McDonald's. I mean, anybody on this call, I'm sure, if you're still eating animal products, you can make a better hamburger than McDonald's. But could you sell billions of them? So you don't necessarily have to have the best product in the world, but you do have to have a marketing strategy and an ability to kind of distribute that product far and wide. So, with Juice Plus, we really are the Ferrari of the networking industry. When I always wondered, why isn't Juice Plus, why aren't we on the front page of this publication and that publication? And it took me a while to realize that the company they didn't want to do what the typical networking industry was doing. They wanted to kind of keep things a little bit unique. And I have to say, when you look at the network marketing industry as a whole, Juice Plus is sort of, it's a boutique market, if you will. It's the Ferrari. Anybody can drive a car that has four wheels, but not everyone can drive a Ferrari. And that's my analogy, is that Juice Plus is the Ferrari of the auto industry when you look at network marketing and all the goods and services that people move to the consumer through the model of network marketing. So, how did I get where I was today? I basically looked at, if I was going to, I bought in. I said, show me how I can compress a lifetime's worth of work into a couple years worth of effort. But for me, I realized, well, if you're going to compress, and here's where I'll just invite you to do the math. If you have a job right now, nothing wrong with a job. I had a job at one point, and it definitely kind of, it makes a difference to have a job and have an income. But do the math. How many hours a week, or how many hours a week are you currently employed? Is it 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week? How many weeks do you have to do that in a year? Is it 48, 49? How much free time do you get? There's 52 weeks in a year. So why don't you we'll average 50 years, and let's say you're doing 50 hours a week. How many more years are you going to have to do that until you have enough money in the bank that you can retire? And so when you look at the math from that perspective versus compressing a lifetime's worth of work into a couple of years worth of effort, I realized, well, my gosh, I'm going to have to work sun up to sun down. And while that was just me, there's a lot of people who are smarter and better than I am at this game. I just thought, well, if I'm going to compress a lifetime's worth of work into a couple of years worth of effort, I better get busy. And so I took that warm market list, that memory jogger. People say, can you put 20 people on a list? Can you put 100 people on a list? Could you put 200 people on a list over time? And I basically got up and started, I started calling the East Coast at 6 o'clock in the morning where I was on the West Coast, and I would make calls till 9 o'clock at night where I could still call Alaska and Hawaii. And I basically contacted everybody that I could think of in as short a period of time as possible. And the thing that does, if you is it creates momentum. And so one of the things, if you have big dreams, or you realize, well, what I'm currently doing isn't going to work, what's plan B? I loved having Tim Emmett, who's a famous British professional climber. He was at our Seattle Summit, which is a big event we do annually. And he said, for what he does in terms of climbing, you always have to have a plan B, because as a climber, if plan A fails, chances are you might come, gravity's going to bring you back to the ground. So you have to figure out how to have something to protect you from hitting the ground. And in your life, is plan A working for you? I mean, are you making the money you want to make? Do you have the free time that you have? Do you have the health that you want to have? And if the answer is no, why are you settling for something less? And what is your plan B? So I'm a big fan of people becoming you have to, at least in today's world, I think you're a fool not to at least understand what network marketing is and why it could be the best business model for the average person to create an above average lifestyle. And people will say, oh, I'm not a salesperson. Oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. Well, that's okay. But then you have to settle for what you have, currently, which probably isn't exactly what you like. So I'm a big fan of just saying, hey, the education won't hurt you. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to do anything. But why not come look and find out, make an educated choice about what this is and what it isn't. So having done that, I created momentum. I was willing to do on the short term what most people won't do, so that on the long term, I could say yes to whatever I want to for the rest of my life. So I'm a big fan of letting people know the truth. It wasn't always easy. It wasn't always, yay, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. No, there were times where I was disappointed, I was frustrated, I didn't know if I could do it. And I'll always be grateful for my father, who 6 months into this business, I had actually achieved some of my goals. It wasn't 6 months. I guess at 6 months I'd achieved my goal. And at 3 months into it, I think I was having a midlife crisis. And I called my dad and said, he said, how is everything going okay? And I said, well, yeah. And then I stopped and I said, well, not really, Dad, it isn't. And I had a bunch of issues going on in my life, and I just didn't have anyone to talk to at the time that could understand me like my dad. And so he helped me realize that what's the worst thing could happen if this doesn't work? And I stopped and thought for a second, and I thought, well, I guess, I could always go back to the way it was. It wasn't a bad life. It just wasn't a great life, and I wanted a great life. So, when I answered my own question, I could just go back to doing what I was doing previously. I was like, that's all I needed to hear from my dad. And I was willing to pour my heart and soul into the next 3 months. And 6 months into this business, I was able to do what I wanted to do, which was generate enough income to pay my house mortgage. And then the rest is kind of history. But it was a consistent method of operation. Every day I woke up and opened up my virtual franchise, which meant I was either contacting new people to find out if they were interested in taking a look at what I discovered. I was calling people to find out if they wanted to get involved, because I'd spoken to them a couple weeks or a couple days previously. I was following up with people who said, yeah, I want to eat this, and are you happy with what's going on? Do you have any questions about how to eat Juice Plus? And then finally, asking people who were raving fans if they knew anyone else in their life would like to benefit the way that they were benefiting, whether it was just like, I'm more regular, you have more energy, I'm sleeping better. It wasn't about leaping over tall buildings in a single bound. And especially for me, I didn't have a huge health result. I was 33. I was physically fit at the time. I had a few issues, but it wasn't until a year later that I realized, oh my gosh, Juice Plus has basically eliminated a lifetime's worth of seasonal allergies. And it took me a year to figure that out. So when you look at people who say, well, I'll give it a try for 4 months, really, if you're 33 years old, 4 months, what is that in terms of the life you've already lived? And I'm a big fan of just encouraging people, hey, look, you spend a lot of money, you invest a lot of money in things that never return you an investment. So why not do this for at least a year and see how, the program works for you during the change of seasons? While I hate to admit it, summer's half over, and some people are already gearing up to go back to school. And what happens when you go back to school? Cold and flu season. Wintertime is when people, tend to stay indoors and get more ill. So if you just get started in the summertime and life is good and there's lots of fresh produce around, how do you know that Juice Plus is making a difference? So I always encourage people, are you willing to give this a whirl for a year? In terms of your health, is your health worth it? And the other thing that I learned, I didn't have this skill in the beginning, but I've learned now over time, is to ask lots of questions. I'm guilty of just I would just, talk to everybody and anybody, and I didn't care what people said. I was just sort of I had diarrhea of the mouth, if you will. But now, over the years, I don't know that my closing ratio is any better, but I learned to ask a lot better questions of people to find out, would they be more interested in the health aspect of what I'm doing? Would they be more interested in the free time aspect? Or would they be more interested in the cash flow? And especially for men, while, men have the same issues around their health as women do. I mean, I'm no different. They don't tend to talk about it as much. So maybe that's why men are thinking oh, this is a women's business. I'm not going to talk to people about their, how regular they are and the issues that they have. But from a financial perspective, I think men, you can always try to, be straight up and ask them, are you generating everything that you thought you would, with your career, and, are you happy with what's going on right now? And if not, what are you thinking about doing? What else are you thinking about doing? And here again, even if people do say, well, yeah, what are you talking about? And you present well, I've got this fascinating business model that's made all the difference in my life, they still have to relate to what Juice Plus and Transform 30 is. In the beginning, we just had a product. Now we have a program, and I'm so grateful for a program because I can mention Transform 30, and people are like, well, what's that? Whereas when I talk about Juice Plus, people say, oh, is that some product that you're selling? And I would always say, well, yeah, it is. Would you like to know about it? But if people have a filter running, it would sometimes their own bias would take them out of the opportunity. Whereas when I talk about Transform 30, they're like, oh, well, what's that? Oh, it's a lifestyle program. Oh, well, what's that? Well, we help people improve their relationship to health, free time, and cash flow. Are any of those of interest to you, or D, all of the above? So, creating momentum, opening your business every day, making sure that you make numbers work to your advantage. I mean, if you talk to 20 of your friends and they all say no, but you believe in Juice Plus, are you going to fold up shop and call it quits? Or are you going to figure out how to go talk to people that you don't know? And that's what I had to do. I mean, I did not come from a background. I did have a sphere of influence in my I was a world-class dinghy sailor. So I had a huge community of the sailing world that knew who I was from an athletic perspective, but they didn't know me as a business person. And so I contacted all the people that I knew, but I quickly, and then I worked on ships. And I don't know if you know anything about ships, but the biggest ship I worked on maybe had like 16 to 20 people, and they weren't necessarily people that I wanted to hang out with. So I had to find places where I could go talk to people that I didn't know. And so in the beginning, we did a lot of shows. I would basically, as long as, I didn't spend a lot of money, but I spent, I was willing to invest my time and energy to go to places and meet people that I otherwise would have no opportunity to meet. So shows, expos, health fairs, psychic fairs. I mean, we did it all. And so, today you have social media. So, I'm a people person. I like to talk to people. I like to get face to face. And while maybe that's not as efficient in today's world of social media, you have to figure out if you don't have a huge sphere of influence with the community that you're currently plugged into, what are you going to do to keep expanding that warm market, that memory jogger that you have? So, and whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, in the end, you just have to have a big enough why so that you're willing to talk to people that you don't know about something that you really believe in. And so I think, as Nicole said, belief in your product, belief in the program, belief that Transform 30 in 2 to 4 weeks can dramatically alter someone's health and well-being. You got to have that rock solid. Who's the company? Who is the Juice Plus company? If you haven't been to an event and had a chance to meet a corporate executive, gone to a boot camp, or if you haven't signed up to come join us in St. Louis the third weekend of October this year, you got to do that. And then, the third thing is, learning the skills and understanding what is it that I have to do on a daily basis to add value to other people's lives and make a difference for myself. So I love the program we have now. And I think Team B does a great job, helping people sort themselves to figure out if they want in or out. But the vehicle that we use is Transform 30. That's the health aspect of things. The skill set that we've come to like is GoPro. And then the third part of it is your mind right? And while we use something it's called Image right now, you have to figure out how to learn more about yourself and do something around becoming someone that you don't know yourself to be. And what I mean by that is, if you had all the answers to have a great life right now, you wouldn't be on this call, or you wouldn't be talking to us. You'd already be like on the beach sipping pina coladas in some tropical environment. So, learning more about yourself and how to be a better person, and not to and to figure out how to let go of the story that is a function of probably who your parents wanted you to be, or how you were raised, and how to be a person of free will. I think that's probably the most important thing. So those three aspects, Transform 30 is a no-brainer, GoPro is a no-brainer, and the third thing is, do you know who you really are and the power that you have to smack this thing out of the park and make all your dreams come true? And I'll close, and then I'll turn it back over to you, Nicole. But the one thing that I can't emphasize enough in this business is to give permission people to make a ton of money. And the reason that, and it's not about the money. In today's economy, the only way you can make a difference is by adding value to the lives of others. So if you add a little bit of value to people in your community, you can make a little bit of money. But if you figure out how to impact thousands and build a network and leverage your time by building a network of like-minded people, then you can influence thousands of people, and your bank account will be like, as big as you ever wanted it to be, or you'll see that, wow, this thing really does work. So those are a few things that, made a huge difference for me. And I'll just wrap it up. Nicole introduced me, well, she didn't introduce me properly as Mr. Dr. Mitra Ray, but, I did it with a buddy. I mean, Mitra and I were best friends making this thing happen before we actually, decided to share the rest of our lives together and have children. But I had a buddy that was willing to, we were there when we had good days, and when we had bad days, we could support each other. And I can't say enough about finding a buddy. And I think, Nicole, you and your partner in crime there have done an amazing job. You and Melissa, have done an amazing job, partnering up and solving the big problems so you can reap the big rewards that come to those people that are willing to not take no for an answer. So I'll turn it over to you. I don't want to just ramble on, but that's a little bit of my story. And I did a call for Zvonko Kurkic. Many of you may know Zvonko in the Toronto area. But the one thing he asked me about was the future. And when you look at what's happening, like the cat is kind of finally out of the bag in terms of Juice Plus and how great it is and where we're positioned in the marketplace. And when you look at 23, 24 years since the introduction of Juice Plus, it's never been better positioned than it is right now. International sales, like the gross sales in all of the countries has never been bigger. And my prediction was that in the next 5 years, this $600 million annual, a month company, it's going to double. So when you look at the growth that's experienced already, when I got started with the company 20 some odd years ago, the company had done $2 billion in sales with environmental products. And when I showed up, the company had already been around for like 25 years. So in 25 years, they did $2 billion, not bad. Well, in the second 20 years that I've been around, the company has done in excess of $10 billion. So if you look at the next 5 years and the fact that the timing is perfect, the question you have to ask is, why are you going to do this, and make sure it's good enough to help you through the ups and downs? And then how big of a piece of that pie do you want? Because there is no glass ceiling here. And it's really about anybody who's willing to do the work, get educated about how the system works, and then just start taking action one day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time. And, in a couple of years worth of effort, if you really want it, you can have everything that you ever thought this world was capable of providing for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Doug. You guys can still hear me on my phone? Yeah? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. I was like talking to myself. Hello. Anyways, I just wanted to thank Doug for joining us tonight. We do our calls. We try to keep it to about 30 minutes. What I want to say is team, we've got 2 months to hit our team goal, which is to walk stage proudly as an organization from many parts of the globe to represent Team B as the 100 Club. And we hit 75 Club a couple months ago. We kind of flatlined for the last couple months because of holidays and summer. But I believe that August and September are our months to knock it out of the park, as Doug said, and make not only Team Shining Star proud, Canada proud, Team B proud, but all of Juice Plus. And we are role models for other teams that are trying to grow and trying to grab wings. And I really believe that we are going to be walking stage as a new 100 Club. And I just want to say thank you in advance for dedicating the month of August and September to start really grinding it to the pavement and making it happen. So Doug, do you want to close off by your lifestyle? What's in the back there?
Well, I realize I may have darkened my face, but I'll just give you a little view of, this is kind of the home office view here. I'm not like one of these people, oh, hey, I drive the fancy car, although my wife says, what are you kidding? You drive a fancy boat. You can't, it's out on the buoy there, but it's behind the tree. But yeah, I don't know, I didn't want to talk about my lifestyle, but I wanted to add to just what you had said about your goal of getting to 100 Club. And I just wanted to invite everyone, especially for the new people. You might think, oh, 100 Club, what does that mean? And maybe, I'm sure as a team you've already discussed it, but what does it look like to be part of a movement where, if you create your own customer base, your own little community of 10 to 15 to 20 households that are improving their health and living a better, healthier lifestyle. What does it mean to be part of a movement where you grow your own little community and you're part of 100 other people, some of which you may know, some of you don't know, but everybody is creating this huge community where in the end, people just have an opportunity to live a better quality of life. And so I just, I'm so grateful for people like you, Nicole, that have this big vision and that have the heart and soul to make it about, adding value to the lives of others. Yeah, okay, great. If you started the heap, that's great. You reap the reward. But it's not always about the money. It's really about the community that you create. And I can't say enough about that. When I look back at almost 23 years, the friends and the family and the people that I've been able to make a difference for all around the world. You can take all the lifestyle, you can take the boat, the house, the car, the van, you can take all that stuff away, but you'll never be able to take away, what I feel in my heart in terms of, what happened by me and others just kind of like opening their mouth, taking a risk and asking people, hey, if it's not great, would you be interested in looking in some information that could have a dramatic impact on the rest of your life? And for that, I'll be forever grateful for the person that shared it with me and for all of you that do the same. It'll be great. And I say it's a done deal, Nicole. I say that everybody's already on board and there's just a little bit of work that has to be done, but I'm planning on having a big celebration for Team B 100 Club in St. Louis. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, and thanks for inviting me on the call, and wish everyone a great rest of the summer. And the best thing about this business is you can be at the beach and still be adding to your bottom line.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Team B, for joining us. Nicole has updated our team calendar. We've planned the next 2 months of events, so make sure to jump onto our team website, mark your calendars, fill them up, and if it's not filled, create your own. Have a beautiful evening and an amazing month. I know that you guys have some big goals, and I know you're going to hit them because you're going to work and you're going to focus. Love you guys. Bye.
Love you, Nicole.
Bye, Nicole.
Bye,
See you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole.